Hey everybody, welcome to a new video series where I share the most important Google Street View news from each month. The game of GeoGuessr is of course entirely built around Street View, and with Google constantly adding updates and testing new cameras, it's now required homework for GeoGuessr players to keep up with the latest news. Massive shout out to the Virtual Streets community, which is the ultimate resource for anything Street View related. Links to their Discord server and website are below. With all of that said, please do give the video a thumbs up if you like this idea, and let's get started. The most exciting news from May, in my opinion, is the sighting of Google Street View cars in Costa Rica. This picture was taken in the capital city of San Jose earlier in May. Currently, the Street View in Costa Rica only consists of very isolated trekker coverage, which showcases natural areas or tourist attractions, but not any complete roads or towns. This sighting of a high-resolution Gen 4 camera being driven on regular roads means we'll finally get true Street View coverage in the country. This was more or less expected to happen at some point for Costa Rica, especially given that neighboring Panama got Street View last year. The existing Costa Rica trekkers are very rarely added to popular GeoGuessr maps, so once the Gen 4 images get released, players will effectively have an entirely new country to learn. I, for one, am really glad to see Central America get another huge update. It's a really underrepresented part of the world right now in Street View, and therefore in GeoGuessr too. I should mention quickly that with this video format that I'm trying out, I'm only sharing the handful of biggest news items from each month. Of course, there were lots of other small updates throughout the month of May, so make sure to leave some comments down below with any interesting finds or news that you discovered last month. Turning to the next story here, in recent years, Google has greatly expanded the number of countries that they're constantly updating with Street View. This has led to some images in some really unique areas that didn't have coverage before, especially in otherwise well-covered Street View countries. A nice example of this from last month is Australia, where we finally got Street View on King Island, which is just northwest of Tasmania. Australia in general already is one of the most well-covered countries, but with Google's new continuous updates program, their drivers are sometimes sent off to really interesting new places like this. Another previously uncovered Tasmanian island, Flinders, should be receiving its first images any day now as well. A much larger update to an existing Street View country also happened last month. Mongolia got its first Generation 4 coverage. Mongolia previously had quite extensive 3rd Gen camera coverage, which holds up pretty well quality-wise, but many GeoGuessr players and fans of this beautiful country have been dying to see new HD Street View there. For now, since this is a small initial release, Gen 4 coverage is limited to just the Ulaanbaatar area, but it's apparently known that Google will be driving around the rest of the country this summer, so it remains to be seen where else they go and how long it takes to get published. For this first wave of coverage though, Google used a very unique pickup truck with a mesmerizing blue and white pattern. Surely Google knows about car metas for GeoGuessr and did this intentionally for us, surely. In the introduction to this newsreel, I mentioned that Google is testing out some different cameras, so here's what I meant by that. Google's current Gen 4 cam looks like this, and as you can see, it's a pretty bulky piece of equipment. Recently, however, they developed a compact version of the same camera, and it's been spotted in May out on the streets of New York and Japan. This camera is very creatively nicknamed Small Cam by the community, and with these recent sightings, we can expect the first Small Cam coverage to be released later this year. Small Cam was developed by Google to reduce the cost and logistics of moving their huge cameras around the world, and the hope is that because of this small cam, many more countries start receiving new and updated coverage. So what's the country at the top of the list to deserve this new camera? That leads us to the last big news item from May. You could call this a rumor or a leak, but some quite interesting information about Indian Google Street View surfaced earlier in May. As you might know, the current coverage in India was taken using a very low quality camera. Unfortunately, the entire country got densely covered by this camera, which makes it usually tricky to read small signs, and the colors and quality don't look very appealing in many cases. Many GeoGuessr players and Street View fans were pretty disappointed with this coverage, and it's been this way for a long time now. However, information surfaced from a tech company employee earlier this month that Google may have hired their company to drive Gen 4 cameras in India this year. They could very realistically use the small cams as well to take this coverage. While this is largely just a rumor that I got some information about, it would make a lot of sense to be true. One big reason that Google would redo their India coverage is because of their main competitor, Apple's Lookaround. They also went to India but used their regular high-res cameras, so it looks noticeably nicer than Google's. Historically, Google has been spurred to improve coverage because of Apple outdoing them, so we could be seeing a similar situation in India. Another big reason this rumor may be true is because Google is already starting to replace the same low-quality camera used in other countries. For example, Ecuador recently got a large update with the bad camera, but now Generation 4 cameras are being driven around the country to replace it. It's definitely really exciting information, but of course with all unconfirmed stories like this, it's important to keep expectations low and keep an eye out for official announcements. And that's about it for big Street View news stories in the month of May 2024. Every single month these days feels like it gets more and more exciting with Google Street View news, so I can't wait to see what we get in June. Well, thank you so much for watching this episode. I really hope you enjoyed this concept. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next episodes. Leave a like down below as well, and I will see you next time.